This is like, 2 out of 24 hours in the day. It's 2 out of 24 hours in the day. And
He's
Josh
eating.
is stuffing his face. It's like dumping shit down his gullet.
Dude, I had a salad for lunch, man. I'm hungry.
What was that you just ate?
Cauliflower chips,
Oh, sounds healthy.
some guacamole.
Oh, good shit.
Oh, oh. Ah, yeah. So what color are your poops these days?
They're all sorts of color. A lot of earth tones. A lot of earth tones.
Hey, you know what though? It comes out easy though, don't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Easy?
Dude,
100%,
I'm telling
man.
you, I can. So when I do my clean eating during the weekday and then my fat boy eating on the weekends, I can tell the difference between a Friday and a fucking Monday just by that first like 10 minutes in the morning. If I go
Yeah.
like Monday morning, dude, it is like fucking brain aneurysm. Friday, that shit's coming out like fucking Jiffy Lube.
Really? See,
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's like, yeah, no, I can tell the difference too. Like, dude, the
Yep.
Monday morning one, it's like, man, I had an MRE on Friday, and like, this one's gonna take some effort.
I just don't
It's like-
have a problem with that.
Well, that's the thing. You're probably one of the normal people. Like you always, heard about when you were younger. Oh, you should be going, twice a day or regular intervals and this and that. And hey, don't push. And yeah, that was fucking never me, man.
No,
That
dude.
shit was always a struggle.
No, I misled you guys. I'm like, I don't have a problem with that. Thinking like, putting across like I'm normal or something. It's not that. It's that like it's too easy. Like it's so easy that it's like it's in the morning, man. Now we're talking about bowel movements. Man, YouTube is gonna love this shit. So in the morning, it's like I get up and what wakes me up is I gotta take a dump. And it's like it's not like I gotta take a dump and it's gonna be solid. It's like I'm gonna take a dump and I gotta go now. So
But
I
you chew
wake
too,
up.
though, right?
Yeah, but that's not
Yeah.
the reason.
Well, I mean, it's got a large part to do with bowel movement.
Maybe, but so I take like 2 dumps in the morning within like 30 minutes of each other. And it's like, yeah, dude, when people are saying you got to take 2 dumps a day and that's normal, yeah, they're not talking about like within 30 minutes of each other. My shit's not normal, dude. It's not.
Eating regular, my stuff's pretty regular, and I'm good to go. Yeah, what I do notice, though, and I think we actually talked about this before, it's like when I eat normal, like the regular food or the vegan food or whatever, dude, when it's time to go, it's time to go. There is no fucking, hey, let me wait a minute. Let me finish sending this email. And let me finish typing this fucking sentence. It's like your ass better be en route right now.
See, I came up every summer going to my granddad's ranch, and there's cattle and horses out there, and I imagine, you get to see cattle and horses poop all the time, and horses poop, I imagine is a lot like Rogers. It's just like it comes out, it's like grass. It's like poop. It's
Hey,
like
at least it
poopy
doesn't
grass.
stink.
It looks healthy though. It looks healthy, but it's like poopy grass. It's like, wow, it looks healthy. It's a horse, but I imagine your dumps are probably pretty healthy, Roger.
Like I said, Fridays are. Come Monday, they're not.
Yeah. How long does that
Big-
take to clear up though?
Normally by like Tuesday morning, I'm back to normal. Monday's a struggle though. I'm like, for real. Monday is like, wow, I can actually, you feel it in your body. And then by Monday evening, Tuesday morning, because normally I try not to eat too early anyway. So I try to stop eating at 6 at night, and then I don't eat till like 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning. You see that shit? I had to blow it up.
This is so bad. We're talking about bowel movements.
For our YouTube viewers out there, we were
You
just
know
making
what?
note that Josh is again stuffing his face when I take a picture of my setup here.
It's you know what? I don't know, man.
hungry.
Our audience, if you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers of who's listening, I mean, we have a lot of older listeners. We really do. So they might get a kick out of this.
And
Talking about-
you know what? They probably agree. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, man, you eat right. You know, you get some veggies and some broccoli and cauliflower chips in there. You're shitting right for a couple days."
Cauliflower chips are good, man. You guys got to check them out.
Have you done the cauliflower crusted pizza?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Pretty legit.
Have it.
Yeah, they make it like thin crust, so it's I mean, like vegan cheese sucks ass, and it's actually worse for you. But it's kind of like
Is
you
it?
might as well just eat Cheese Whiz or whatever. But with the I'll do like a veggie pizza with the cauliflower crust, dude. If you get thin crust, you can't fucking tell the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly like these chips. If you would have gave them to me, and you know, I didn't know they were cauliflower chips, I wouldn't know. Like a flat, I wouldn't know. They're pretty good.
Have you done the Impossible Whopper yet?
No,
Get an Impossible Whopper.
dude, I haven't eaten fast food in. Well, I did have Chick-fil-A about a week and a half ago.
It's not fast
But-
food.
Whatever.
Other than that,
not.
man, I haven't had fast food. Like I've eaten pretty clean since I've been down here in Florida.
Get you an Impossible Whopper. You can even pull the bun off of it if you want to. It's pretty damn good. Considering what your alternative. Now, granted, if you do it like go full scale, it's probably equal because by the time you put the pound of mayonnaise and all that other shit they put on there. But like if you just do it with like the lettuce, onion, tomato, whatever you want to add to it, and then like without the bun, it's pretty legit. It's pretty hard to tell the difference.
What is it made out of?
It's the plant-based stuff, dude. They do like soy and a little bit of black bean and
Nope.
yeah. See, there you go. No. You should try it. You'd be amazed.
No, dude, I don't do fake meat.
The only thing they haven't come a long way with yet is the cheese. The cheese is still struggling, but the
Nope.
everything else, man, it's legit.
Nope. Eating fake meat. Not happening.
You've eaten fake cheese.
Yeah, I've eaten fake cheese, but I ate it because I didn't have anything else. Now I have choices. I have choices now. I can go buy.
Like you never had any Cheese Whiz as a kid? That shit ain't
Yeah.
real. That shit ain't real.
Velveeta, dude. What is Velveeta? I mean,
I don't
what
know.
is it? I mean, for
But
real.
We're not talking about that, right? We're talking about when you were a kid or you were deployed or something. It was just a lack of options. Now I have a choice. I have the ability to go to the grocery store and go to I don't go to where they keep the sliced cheese, right? I don't go to where they keep the government cheese. I go to the part of the store over by the produce section where they have all the bougie cheeses, and that's where I get my cheese.
I've always heard like if you want to eat healthy, right? You go to the grocery store. You don't go down any of the aisles. You stay on the outside. You stay on the outside, and you'll be good. That's what I've always heard.
Yeah,
Not
'cause it's
always.
what meat, milk, vegetables, right? On the outside,
Meat,
and everything
milk,
on the inside is
vegetables,
all your
yeah.
and liquor.
But almost everything, almost everything is refrigerated on the outside, or at least climate controlled. Vegetables, things like that on the outside.
Foods in the center of the grocery store.
So Kraft Foods, this is from Wikipedia, lists Velveeta's ingredients as milk, water, whey, milk protein concentrate, milk fat, whey protein concentrate, sodium phosphate, and 2% or less of salt, calcium, phosphate, lactic acid, sorbic acid, sodium citrate, sodium alginate, enzymes, annatto, and cheese culture.
Yeah.
So tonight was my cheat night, right? Cheat night. And I told you guys I got an air fryer. And
yeah. You cooked it, man.
So basically, so far I've just used it to keep stuff warm, just to see how it works. Better than the oven. But tonight I typed into Google. This is my Google search. Totino's in air fryer, how long?
Oh,
Yeah, Totino's pizza. And I'm telling you, dude, oh God. I'm not trying to be like a food snob. I'm not. I really am not. Because Roger takes that to another level. But me, it's like, whatever, American. But dude, after you eat Totino's pizza, I feel like shit, dude. I do not feel well. I don't feel good. I ate that stuff 3 hours ago, and I don't feel good, man. It's
less about being a food snob versus getting quality for what you pay for. That's
but
like my goal.
Totino's is like $1.19.
Yeah.
well, then you got $1.19 you're paying for.
That's That's yeah. I
That's
guess.
right up there with the taquitos, man. Every now and then I get hungry. I go here to the Speedway. The fucking taquitos are the shit. You get like
Yeah, they're
5 of them
good.
for $1,
Yeah.
and you know I always get like the jalapeno tornado,
Oh,
and you get like 2 or
tornadoes.
3. Yeah, you get like 2 or 3 of those, dude. You got about 17 minutes, maybe.
Oh. So a tornado, like you get 2 tornadoes, right? And that's going to be what, $4, right?
Yeah, maybe even
Maybe,
cheaper.
maybe, maybe cheaper. So what do you choose instead of a tornado where you're going to get like, you're going to feel good when you eat it? It's like, oh, this tastes good. This tastes good. But you're not going to, 20 minutes later. I mean, what do you get? What's the happy medium there?
That's the problem. Is one, it's convenience, and two, if like what I'm on, the biggest thing is you're really limited to a lot of carbs. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if you cut out meat during the weekday, I mean, dude, there's only like so many legumes and fucking black beans that you can eat. I mean, at the end of the day,
You
you're gonna
can't
eat
eat
some
eggs.
potatoes.
You
I
can't eat
do.
eggs.
It just kind of depends on what I'm fixing, whatever. I do try to limit. Like back in the day, I would eat 2 eggs every day. Now I do like an egg every. It just depends on what I'm fixing or whatever. If I'm doing like this morning, I had a like a stir fried veggie and rice bowl, so I'll do a egg over easy and throw it on top and break the yolk or whatever. But it's just it ends up being unless you're just going straight vegetables all the time, it ends up being pretty carb heavy because you need some of the brown rice and white rice and potatoes just to kind of fill you up.
So what's the answer to my question then? I mean, it's like, you got $4, you can, or 350. You go to the store, the convenience store, you get a 350, a couple tornadoes. That's going to satisfy you. It tastes good. But like 20 minutes later, you feel like shit. So what do you get instead? I mean, like that's the question. It's like, what will satisfy you like that? That's the problem, man.
You
I
go to
don't
There
know.
isn't there isn't anything. That's why the convenience stores
Peanuts?
exist.
What about peanuts? Like
No,
peanuts, cashews,
not
No.
something like that.
satisfying.
Yeah, it's not
Eh,
satisfying.
well, yeah. I
Not
don't
like
know.
2 tornadoes, man. That's
No.
right up there with like the microwavable burritos. I always keep like 15 or 20 of those in the freezer as well. I mean, you throw 2 of those, you throw 2 of those bad boys in there on a Friday night. It's legit.
Oh, God, those tornadoes, man. That's some deadly stuff, man. I
They're so
see
good.
how
Adult.
America is so fat. Oh,
They're
No,
so
be an adult and go to the grocery store and buy them in bulk, and then you always have them.
Now, my son does that. Well, he doesn't do it. He tells my wife to do it, but she'll go buy like the big box. It's got like 40 of them in it or whatever. And dude, he'll throw like 8 of them bitches in the microwave. And fucking, he'll eat like 7. I'm like, Dad, here you got the last one. I can't eat it.
how old is he? How old is he?
Oh, dude, he's 18, so that dude can,
Oh,
Oh, that
I
guy's a
miss those
machine.
days.
Like,
God, I
he's
miss those days.
18.
man.
He's 18, and he works out and he runs. So his metabolism is just like,
Dude, don't you
Yeah.
miss that? You could eat 2 bags of Doritos and go to the gym.
and he
Just
doesn't
have a
drink
good
beer.
workout.
I mean, he doesn't drink beer or any of that stuff. So like, yeah, he's killing it, man.
Enjoy it while he can.
Those days are over. 100%. Done.
I ate 2 bags of Doritos or like 8. Well, I told you what happened when I ate those chicken sandwiches. Imagine if I ate like 6 tornadoes.
You should do that. We should do that on a Saturday.
Oh god,
We'll YouTube it.
dude, the wife makes the ketos homemade. She puts them all together and puts them in the pan with just a little bit of olive oil. Fries those bad boys.
Oh, that
Things are
shit's awesome.
legit. But yeah,
No, I
can
do.
only-
I mean, I guess it's healthy. I mean, what's like peanut oil, right? I mean, like if you fry like, because I'll take
Yeah.
potatoes and cut them up, right, and fry them in potato oil, or
Yeah.
I mean that's healthy, right? Or peanut oil. Sorry. Right.
Yeah, peanut oil. It's fine. The most people when they fry their turkeys, for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, they're
Yeah.
frying them in peanut oil.
That's just expensive.
Yeah,
Damn.
I mean, they're not giving it away for sure.
It's like $20 a damn jug of however big it is.
Okay, I got to go get a cup of coffee. You got to go get a cup of coffee.
Go get your cup of coffee.
What are you waiting on?
I'll get my cup of coffee when I'm getting goddamn ready. I'll be right back.
Oh,
That stuff was nuts, man. When he was talking about sending the dogs back.
Holy smokes.
Like, no kidding, there would be two new feral dogs in Slovenia. That'd be happening. Like, hey man, big bowl of food outside, and be like, peace out, dude.
I wish you the best of luck. Man.
Well, I mean, didn't you used to be able to like just throw them? I mean, I know he's not flying back right now, but I mean, didn't you used to be able just to check them in, right?
Yep,
That's what I thought. They just, as long as they're under the weight or whatever, and I think you paid extra, like $100 or $150.
You had to pay extra, but you could show up at the airport day of flight and
with the crate and everything.
Counter. Yeah, you go up to the counter with the rest of your bags and be like, I got to check these bags and my dog, and you're, went. That was it.
I so want to take my 150-pound Malamute on a plane as an emotional support animal.
Dude, dogs are still good. They cut down on a lot of that stuff. Because people had like a peacock on a plane. Yeah. This is my emotional support animal. You're like, stop.
And there's still no like governing body of that, is there?
Nope.
Like there is no like service animals. There is no like federally recognized certification or whatever.
Nope. Way somebody listening might know, be better educated on it, but I don't think there is. Like it's whatever you show up with and be like, this is my emotional support animal, and it's like, well, that's your emotional support animal, okay. And it's absolutely 100% ridiculous. It's gotten completely out of control. Like with, I think, service dogs. I mean, granted, you can tell, right? Because I've seen people with service dogs, and they're like, this is my service dog. And you're like, that dog is not disciplined at all. Like, it's jumping on other people. Like, it's
he just pissed on his leg.
Yeah, like, that is not a trained service dog. I know you're full of shit. So, Big Chief. I like it.
Trying something new tonight with the note taking.
Just the tip. Oh, note taking. Okay.
Big Chief pencil tablet. You remember these? You know how much these used to cost back in the day? They were like 5 cents for 20 of them. Dime. These were like $5 a thing.
It's because
but I had to have my Big Chief.
Dude, they're hard to get. I mean, we talked about this before before I got my little artist book here. I mean, just to find a notebook that's not lined, dude, it's impossible.
So sketchbooks, man. I've got like 6 of them.
They're conditioning, folks. They want you to follow the rules, stay within the lines. I'm telling you.
Jesus. So what are we talking about tonight? Holy cow.
A lot of shit.
Oof. I've done very little research.
Yeah, you'd be on par with Josh.
Yeah. That's right. I'll wing it, baby. Wing it.
You need to, number one, Josh. Okay, number one. You need to lean a little closer to the mic when you're talking.
Like this close?
Oh, yes. A little bit closer. No, not that you, but yeah.
Like
from where
like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as I'm listening to it, have you listened to the other podcasts?
Hold it up a little bit higher.
So I listened to the last one.
Perfect.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a little bit like
the last one. 100%. The last one the sound was off on mine. I was like, ugh. But,
well, it's because all you got to do is get closer. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm all fucked up.
I mean, I can't get much closer unless I hunch over and I'm like this.
And then you start sounding creepy.
Come here and get in a van. Hey, did you see, talking about creepy, you remember that show where it had like all the, they had like 20 kids and they were, this real religious family. And I think the dad was like a pastor or something. But it was on TV for, I don't know, a couple of years or whatever. But one of the like kids just got arrested for like child pornography.
Oh yeah. So I didn't know who he was. I saw the dude and I saw the whatever, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't recognize him.
They were on some like some TV show about their family because they knew they had like it was like 19 kids.
Dude, it's right up there with Jarrett. Jarrett, the Subway guy. Get these guys money, dude. They don't know what to do with it.
Hey man. Hey man. You look at like, okay, I don't know. Have we talked about this on the podcast? All these super rich folks like What's his name? The guy that supposedly killed himself.
Oh, Epstein.
Epstein, right? Epstein and all these rich folks. It's like, why are they into, like raping
Well, hold
little
on.
kids?
Let's roll that in the podcast. That's a great start.
Oh,
Good day and welcome to another episode of Culper's Canteen Cup. I want to welcome Luke back. Welcome Josh back. I'm back from vacation. Again, big shout out to Carlton Zeus for using his intro music. For those that were watching the YouTube version before, we were getting ready to get into some serious thought here about rich people and what they do. So, Luke, you were talking about Epstein and killing himself, and
yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, I quit the podcast for like 48 hours. Because you get a bunch of high octane dudes, Josh says Americans are mainly peas and they're not high octane. And that's true for the, majority of Americans aren't. But these three guys here on Culper's Canteen Cup, we are high octane. And when we get sensitive, I'm talking about myself, of course. When I get sensitive, I go high octane sensitive. So yeah, I quit the podcast for a couple days. And I was MFing Josh and Roger, and I was like, you guys suck. But I'm back. These guys are my boys. So yeah, we were talking about you see this stuff, with Epstein and all these, Pizzagate stuff, and you see the things coming out about these, high profile people who are pedophiles basically. And I have a theory on why, super rich people like billionaires go down the pedophile route. And wow, man, we're starting this one off with a bang. So my theory on the pedophile thing with billionaires and people who have a lot of money is that, when you have that much money, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and the sky's the limit, right? So you can buy anything, you can do anything, you can jet off, and you can go to the base camp of Everest, and you can go to Tokyo and live the life. You can go to Thailand, but that gets boring, right? You have to start pushing the limits, and the only way to push the limits is to do things that are against the law and do things that are extremely taboo that you have to pay for to do. And I believe that these people get so wrapped up in their own power and everything. It's like, I can buy anything I want. I'm going to buy the most taboo thing ever, and that's pedophilia. I really believe that. I think that's why Epstein made all his money. I'm not going to get into whether he killed himself or not, which he didn't, by the way. But yeah, he was catering to people who were pushing that envelope. That's my theory. They can buy anything they want, so they buy the most taboo thing ever, and that's pedophilia. I don't know, man. Wow, that's a bad intro to a show. God, Josh, help me out here, bro.
Luke needs help from those guys. So the the whole I don't have a better explanation, but folks do have, and how Epstein apparently had how much money? He was worth how much?
Well,
I mean, it was hundreds and hundreds of millions. I mean, the dude owned his own island, right? And here's what I want to know. So speaking of, along those lines, did you see the of Giselle, whatever her name is, his cohort?
No, what's up?
In a photo, she's got a big black eye in her latest prison photo, and it was like, hey, look, check it out. Most people don't give themselves black eyes. I've had some people be like, oh, I ran into a door or something. No, you didn't. You're lying. Somebody punched you in the face. And so, dude, something happens to her and she dies. Again, I'm not black helicopter guy, but it's really hard not to be a black helicopter guy.
There's a few things that have like kind of disappeared from the news, and one of them is the Ghislaine Maxwell thing. And and Jeffrey Epstein and Cuomo, dude. What happened with Cuomo? Roger, dude, what happened with Cuomo, man? I mean, what the hell? We were talking about him like 3 episodes ago, man. That guy, I don't think he's graced a headline over the past month.
They've gone to talking about, and which is what this episode was going to be about, Biden's first 100 days, because you had the Cuomo thing, right? And then you had the border thing that was, turned into a crisis. And I mean, when was the last time you heard about the border? Even from your right-leaning news, like your Fox News and OAN and Newsmax, you didn't even hear about the border anymore. Now everything's just gone on to Biden's 100 days. But back to your whole pedophilia thing. So I Googled it. And this guy here, dude, I tell you what, there's some like serious justification going on here because he's like broke it down to stage. So you put it in there. Why are some mega rich people pedophiles? I won't bore you with all the thing, but he's like, most of the rich people are self-made. Usually a self-made guy like me has some stages in life. This guy has a 9-figure salary, and he breaks it down to stages. And stage 1, school years, younger school years. Stage 2, high school. Stage 3, university. And then, stage 4 is when you finally hit it big, right? And sometimes, again, university doesn't mean that they necessarily completed university. I mean, you have like your Bill Gates and these guys that dropped out, but just, theoretically, like your college freshman year, sophomore year, whatever. What it all boils down to, this guy anyway, in his mind, is that he was pushed really hard during his school years, high school years, was bullied a little bit, no girlfriends, a little bit of a nerd. So those are the years that he missed out on. And so that's what they go back to relive. And there is a connection here I want to make, but it's the same but different. But there is a piece there that where everybody else has matured, like socially, these guys haven't. And so when you become the 25, 26, 28, 30-year-old where you should be at the pubs and, getting drunk with other chicks your age and this and that, mentally these cats are still set back when they were like 13, right? And it's funny because I've said this previously with other friends, the Asian culture, for those that have been to Korea, is very similar to that, where the men do not mature as fast as the women, or, and I mean socially mature, right? Or even at the same rate that American men do. And so it's not until a Korean male hits his 30s to where he hits like the young adult, which he would say, okay, what we would be at 18, 19, 20 years old. Now, this guy is a little weird because it's, his preference tends to be like really young. I could see if it was like, because there is some like morality that pops in here. Like, hey, I'm into 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds or whatever. They're legal, right? He is well younger than that. So that there you're just sick in the head and whatever. But I mean, this guy's got he's got to have 40 steps here on like the stages of life and what he's done to. What that tells me though is that he is going out of his way to justify why he is what he is. To say, okay, I am in the right because of this. I'm not just a dirty old pedophile or whatever. And no, that's not a lot of Asian hate from Roger. So it's hashtag protect me. But,
go ahead, Roger. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You had a question.
I don't have a question. I got a point. And this episode, man, Culper's Canteen Cup, we sometimes go into some uncharted territory. I did not expect to go into this tonight, but I'll go ahead and say it. Back in the day, I was in college. I was in college and I met my wife in college, and, she's the same age as me. She's actually a year older than me. So she's robbing the cradle with me. But back in the day, I'm looking at my wife walking through the rec center with her, spandex on and everything. And I'm like, that is the hottest girl I will ever see in my life. Right. I'm 20 years old. She's 21. And I'm like, that's the pinnacle of like sexual attraction for me. It will never get any better than that. And at the time I was thinking, I don't care if I'm like 40 years old, that's going to be the hottest thing ever. But I go back to Texas Tech and I look at these girls walking around that they're the same age as my wife was back then. And I'm like, these are just girls. They're not attractive to me at all. And I find my wife extremely attractive, right? And we'll just keep it with my wife. I find her very attractive at her age. And I'm like, wow, dude, I can't imagine thinking that someone 15 years younger than her is super attractive. It's like my age. So what I'm saying is, what I find sexually attractive is something that is at my age, which is late 40s. Now, here's the question to you two guys and the rest of the Canteeners out there. when does that stop? When does that stop? When I'm 70 years old, and I'll be like, dude, these 70-year-old grandmas, these 18-year-old grandmas rolling around in their walkers, dude, that's the stuff, man. I don't want those 40-year-old chicks. I want these girls in their walkers. It's a weird thing. So I don't understand. I truly don't understand, the younger chick thing. I don't get that, man. I'm a MILF guy. I guess I'll be a GILF guy someday, but I don't know. It's a weird thing with me. I don't understand the pedophilia. I don't understand the, barely legal. I don't understand. I don't get that, because as I've matured, I find women my own age the most attractive. But I guess the question is, when does that stop?
Well, you're supposed to,
50,
right? I mean, that's why your
60,
body.
70. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean that's why your body decreases its testosterone level and your estrogen levels go up, and they say it's the meant across the animal kingdom, it keeps the once you father kids or hyenas or cats or whatever the hell animal it is, it keeps them from just running off, and they tend to stay with the pack or whatever. So ideal, and you're absolutely right. It's hopefully it continues on. I think eventually you get to where you're libido is just non-existent. Yeah, and at that point, it's just like, dude, it's like if I can just wake up in the morning and like take a leak without shitting myself, that's a win. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, and I'm the same way, dude. I mean, you look at it now, and I remember, you're 18, 19, like, oh man, I get it. I see why these 45-year-olds are nailing these 18-year-old chicks and this and that.
Yeah.
Dude, at 45 years old, I do not have the time, nor the energy. Nor the dude. I mean, thank God I love my wife, and we are good where we're at. But I'm just like, yep, I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm the same way you are. It's the love my wife to death. Think she's the most beautiful thing in the world, and the 18, 19, 20-year-olds just
seem like kids, man. They're little children, and I don't understand. That's what we're getting back to the Epstein thing now, and the pedophile is, I do not get it. And that guy that was trying to justify himself in that article you were saying, that's exactly what he was doing. It's like in my opinion, there's something wrong there. In my opinion, some of the audience might disagree, and Josh is like, dude, Luke's off the rails. We are off the rails, man. This is awful. But I think it's important, guys listen to this podcast. I think a few females do too, and getting a little into the heads of us. Josh looks very uncomfortable right now. Let's hear from him.
I'm good, dude. I'm not uncomfortable at all. I bet I'm the same way. So we were somewhere, the wife and I, we were somewhere, and she said something about, some random girl. And I was like, that girl's in high school. It was like, well, it's a high schooler. Like, of course they're going to, wear whatever, or do whatever. I forget what it was. My wife's like, no, she's like early 20s. Like, she's in college. And I was like, dude, I was like, I didn't even give the girl a second glance, because like, that's a high schooler. Like when you get to be old and shit like us, and people who are in their 20s, you're like 12 years old. Like, get away from me. Like, I got absolutely nothing. So yeah, when does that end? I don't know. It didn't end for what's his face? Who was the oil baron from Texas who married
Ross Perot.
God, what was the girl? The OD'd in the Bahamas. I mean, like, he married her, so obviously he did not, he did not mature like we did, I guess.
Hey, look, it goes back to this guy's point, though. It goes back to the stages,
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe he was in that stage.
Any dude, look. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say the guy's absolutely justifying it. So when my wife and I first met, I was 18 years old. She was 16, and that was
okay.
That was
okay, the statute of limitations, I think, has passed. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
What, we met? I didn't say we did anything else.
Okay.
We met, and we waited until she was of legal age.
Great.
And love her to death, but. When you're in your however old this dude is, and legal age, you're just justifying at that point. You're trying to justify the fact that you are a flat out pedophile. That's what it is.
Well,
and there's no
when you're talking about
no other explanation.
when you're talking about like Josh's oil baron from Texas, or the guy that Anna Nicole Smith married way back in
Yeah,
the day.
yeah. That's her name.
It's the same guy, same guy.
Yep, that's
Okay,
the guy I'm thinking
so
about.
and all this stuff, and you see, the Hugh Hefner and all this stuff, and you're like, oh, these girls are just trying to take advantage of these guys to get their money. Let me let you behind the curtain. That old dude, that old pervert knew exactly what was going on. He doesn't have that much time left on the earth. It's okay. You know what? These women, and I'm sure it's happened with guys too, they're opportunists. Whatever, man. I think everybody's an adult, a consenting adult. You know what? Let's just let it go. I think it's weird. I wouldn't do that, but hey, do you do
J.
you,
Howard Marshall.
J. Howard Marshall. Okay. Oh,
But you know what? I tell you, I think it goes beyond that. Like when you look at Epstein and his pedophilia or any of them, and I think it goes to what both of you guys were saying. When you have that kind of money, you can do whatever you want, and 99.9% of the time, get away with it, right? Because you just have so much money. So it's like, it's like Charles Barkley here in Phoenix getting another DUI. And they pull him over, and I was like, hey, where were you heading to? He was like, well, I was heading to go get a prostitute until you pulled me over. The guy's got so much money that, okay, they're going to fine him like $5,000. The guy's worth like $50 million. So I think with a lot of these rich dudes, it's not just pedophilia. There's probably a history of some type of drug abuse there, along with every other extreme, thing that you could possibly imagine. Because there's, think about it this way. If I had $1 billion, like, what do you do with $1 billion? Like, you can go anywhere you want. You do whatever you want. You have whatever you want. It's there is no more want. So it's almost like the heroin addict, right? It's like the first time you shoot the needle with your black tar hair on there, you got that high, and then you got to use a little bit more, and then you got to use a little bit more. And it's the same thing, I think, with a lot of these cats. I mean, we narrow it down and say, hey, it's just pedophilia, but I think with all of them, it probably goes, and maybe, and not all illegal, because like I think when you look at Marshall, the oil tycoon, for some of them, it's just business. It's like, I got to make more money. That's what they're addicted to is more. Whereas some of them, get into drugs and whatever else it is. Yeah, go. We were actually talking.
I was gonna say, if I had $1 billion, I'd pay to fly Luke's dogs home.
Exactly, dude. I just typed that to those guys. I was like, yeah, you know what? If these billionaires, here's something better you could do than than abuse and self-abuse and abusing other people, is you just adopt a bunch of dogs and travel around the world, because that will drain your money, man. Okay, so when I shipped my dogs over here, folks, a couple years ago, Hazel and Coda, it was about $2,000, which I thought was a lot of money, and we had to board them for a couple weeks on the tail end, and we had to go pick them up in Frankfurt. It was a couple grand, which I thought was a lot. And it is a lot. That's like more than a stimulus payment. I mean, it's crazy. So, I'm about to move back to the States. For those of you who don't know, I'm about to move back to the States, and I got to ship my dogs back because I'm going to move like in the middle of July. And if you're flying into Dallas, Fort Worth, or anywhere in the South, they basically say you can't fly dogs, in the months of July and August because it's too hot on the tarmac, and we can't control the temperature, and these dogs might die on the tarmac. So you got to fly them like in May, May the latest. So I'm like, okay, I got to fly them back in May. I got to look into shipping them back and all this stuff. So I got 15 different estimates from all around Europe to the places I can actually make it to drop these dogs off. And the cheapest one I have is out of Budapest for 2 dogs. One dog is about 80 pounds. Yeah, she's overweight a little bit. And the other dog's about 40 pounds. The minimum estimate out of Budapest, $7,000 to ship 2 dogs back. And I'm just like, I love these animals. I really do. But my God, I mean, that's like a used car. You can buy a used car for $7,000. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff for $7,000. I can get me a coffee cup that Roger has, like
couple of them,
like like a bunch of them, like 70 of them for the, man, it's so expensive. And so I was asking, the company out of Budapest, they're really good. The Hungarians, man, they're business people. And I was like, why is this so expensive? And they were telling me it's because of COVID. Anything that's non-commercial, that's shipping cargo, air cargo now, that's non-commercial is going to be super expensive because commercial goods being shipped via air right now, they get first priority and everything else is secondary. So personal goods, pets, animals, whatever are going to be secondary. It's COVID has affected this. So you do the math. 4 years ago it was 2,000. Now it's 7,000.
And you said one
when
of your
does it go
dogs is
back to
older,
normal?
right?
Yeah, 13 years old. Yeah. So hopefully she makes it. Good Lord. And my dad's gonna, my dad's great, man. Y'all talked to him a few episodes ago, but he's used to driving around. So I got with my dad and I was like, hey, can you go pick up my dogs from the airport in DFW, Dallas Fort Worth? And Dad, please, can you do this? I'll pay for your gas, I'll pay for your hotel, all these things. And I was halfway expecting to say, no, I can't do it. I'm transporting a bunch of dead bodies. But he replied back and he's like, what an honor. I'm so excited. And it's like, what? Okay.
You sure it
Yeah,
wasn't
what an honor.
sarcasm or?
No, I called him right after that and he's like, he loves Hazel because Hazel, he had to win her over because, yeah, she does not like him. She does not like my dad. She loves him, but she doesn't. Every time she sees him, she bares her teeth. It's weird, man. Only with my dad, but she, cuddles up to him. Man, this episode is so bad. This episode is so bad. I'm sorry. Let's get back
That's
on
all
track,
right.
man. The first 100 days. Let's do it.
First 100 days. So what do you think, Josh, before you get into the nuts and bolts of it? What's your 5-star rating of Biden's first 100 days?
0 out of 5 would not recommend. That's my assessment. There's a lot to cover in the first 100 days. I didn't know we were covering the first 100 days for this episode, so I've been found unprepared. I will say, so news story that just came out on May 4th, the Biden administration is banning travel from India.
He's such a xenophobe.
I was told last year that this was racist. I was told last year that banning countries from travel to the United States was racist. And I want to know how many of those listeners out there who voted for Joe Biden, I want to know how many of you think this is racist. He's an Indian ban. Indians. I don't know how you support that and you voted for a racist. Yeah, first 100 days, it's absolutely it's probably worse than we thought it was going to be. He didn't give his first presser for how many days after he took office? 2 months.
It was like 60 some odd days, right? Like 65,
Yeah.
66, something like that.
Yeah, it was 60 plus days before he gave his first press conference. The stack, of EOs that he signed, and everybody remembers the press conference where he's got that stack of executive orders in front of him, and he asked a question. He's like, "What am I signing here?" People, totally glossed over that. Jim Psaki is a complete disaster. Kamala Harris is MIA. She's supposedly the border czar, and she hasn't given a press conference since she became the border czar. And even some Democrat in Texas, one of the Democrats, I believe is from Texas, has even come out and said, hey, this is worse than what you guys are, worse than what the administration is putting out. Like, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Domestic policy, I don't know who is running domestic policy. I have an idea, but I don't know who is running domestic policy. But that's a disaster as well. I think it's Susan Rice. Biden's not right. When we talked about it, Biden's not running foreign policy. That's Blinken. Blinken's driving foreign policy. Biden is not. It's a hot mess. I think the first 100 days, he's doing what he did during his campaign, which is staying away from the cameras. Even his, even the press conferences that he held, which is, the one he walked off. He was reading reading from the teleprompter in his book of reporters to call on, and then the one he just gave on the what was it, the CDC update, where he said you don't have to wear a mask outside. And for those of you, if you believe in science, you weren't wearing a mask outside to begin with. Even that one got cut short. Somebody tried to ask him a question afterwards, actually a real question, and he bowed up on him. Yeah, man. First 100 days, 0 out of 5. Not recommend.
Well, even his own secretaries, like you said, there's people, and what we've alluded to, there are people behind that are actually running everything: foreign policy, domestic policy, trade, what have you. And I don't necessarily have so much of an issue with that. I mean, I was more of a, the way I think Barack did it, and Donald Trump did it. Most presidents do. You're going to push my policy if you're relying on your experts. But the problem is, you don't even see the secretaries out there. Right? Okay, that's one thing not to have Joe Biden out there. But like Kamala Harris, I mean, she's MIA. I hadn't heard from that chick until his his faux State of the Union. I know it wasn't a true State of the Union thing addressed to joint, session of Congress, whatever. But that's like the first time I've seen her since she was made like the borders are. I mean, just completely gone. Blinken, I think the only time I've seen him and Sullivan was during the meet with the Chinese, and they televised that for like, 45 seconds? It's like these people, same thing with Susan Rice. I don't necessarily have a problem with you, deferring or delegating a lot of this stuff down to your cabinet secretaries, because that's why they're there. They're your subject matter experts, theoretically. But hey, maybe they should get out there and address it. And I think what's killed me the most is, one, here it's painfully obvious that this is a lot harder, and it shouldn't be, because Joe's been in government for, ever. But I guess as a senator, you don't have to work really hard. But it's like, hey, man, a lot of these problems are a lot harder to solve than what you're just getting up there thinking, I'm just going to walk in here and, I'm going to knock out a couple of these EOs, and that's going to solve this problem. That's going to solve this problem. But what kills me more than anything is, like, the administration could fail, and they're going to do some good things. They're going to do some bad things, whatever. People will judge. History will judge, how successful he is. But going back to the media, man, where's the accountability for any of this stuff? I mean, it's like, oh, man, that's great. And he's doing a great job. And that was a fan, Chris Wallace, of course, right? Greatest one I've ever heard. Okay, so what was so great? What's so great about his first 100 days? Oh, man, well, he's just great. Well, yeah, okay, so what has he done? Man, 100 days is just great. So what I did was, and I'll pass this to Luke, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want. So I went on to NPR, which is not, a far right or right, and you could argue maybe center of the road, center left a little bit. So they looked at his first 100 days, and I'll cover a couple of these, and then Luke, you can just cherry pick and take what you want. COVID-19. Okay. Well, one, it's interesting because what they do for the YouTubers on here, they say done, and for the ones that aren't done, it says it's complicated. So as opposed to just saying it's not done, they just say it's complicated, right? So now let's lay this out for the reader. So when you look at your 100-day agenda, these are things that he is promising that he is going to accomplish in the first 100 days. Most presidents run on something like that. Not something that's going to take 4 years, not something he's going to have to be reelected to do. It's, hey, when I come in, there's going to be sweeping changes. This is what I'm going to accomplish in the first 100 days. And understand it may not be to completion, but you expect a large part of that wheel to be moving. So, you take COVID-19, assemble coronavirus task force, done. Man, that was a tough one because I thought we already had one, but he made his coronavirus task force, so that was done. So you got to give him a green check mark for that. Push for immediate coronavirus legislation. That was $1.9 trillion. Voted along party lines. There was no $15 an hour in that bill, and there was no $10,000 student loan bailout in that bill as well. So that was done. Release of vaccine distribution plan. Last time I checked, we already had one because under the Trump administration, he was already doing right at 1 million vaccinations a day. And then Joe, man, I tell you what, he really put himself out there by saying that in his first 100 days, they were going to knock out 100 million vaccinations, considering we were already at 1 million a day. So, I mean, that was a tough one. So he did accomplish that. So I give him that. The main one out of COVID-19, is he rejoined the WHO. and kept, Dr. Fauci as close advisor, which I guess that's a done. But I mean, Dr. Fauci, who was it? It was either Luke or Josh. I mean, he said like he's the highest paid guy in the government that's been there how long? Like probably as long as Biden was a senator. So I mean, Fauci clearly wasn't going anywhere. Luke, I'll throw out these broader category because they break it down to COVID-19. So then you've got the economy, reverse Trump's corporate tax cut, says not yet achieved, which means he didn't do it first 100 days. The environment, organizing a climate world summit, make U.S. an international leader on climate change. I don't know how that happens, how you measure that. Racial equity is what they use. Immigration and foreign policies. So what's your take on his first 100? I think I kind of blew out the COVID-19, so feel free to jump on whatever you feel like.
Well, I think of all those things that you just mentioned, all those platforms for the first 100 days are something, are so nebulous that you could say whatever you wanted and you would have accomplished those things. The first 100 days, it depends on how you look at it. Rush Limbaugh way back in the day got a lot of heat for saying, I hope Obama fails. And what Rush Limbaugh was saying was based on Obama's agenda and what Obama wants, I hope the president of the United States fails in his agenda. And, I would say from a Democrat point of view, not a hard left point of view, not a social justice warrior, hard left point of view, but from a Democrat point of view, Joe Biden's first 100 days has been a success from their point of view. From our point of view, you're like, yeah, this guy, I don't like what he's doing. And I don't either. I think his first 100 days has undone a lot of some good that was done over the previous 4 years and even beyond that, believe it or not. But from a Democrat point of view, for the 80 million people who supposedly voted for him, I think that the first 100 days is somewhat of a success. But what I find interesting is, what's the approval rating, man? If you're going off like, just YouTube, right? And people who are watching YouTube, I would say people who are watching YouTube, Vice, Fox News, or MSNBC are watching YouTube, President Biden's, address to Congress are probably more politically aware than those people just, watching TV. And if you look at the numbers, man, Biden is being ratioed to hell on YouTube. And from what I'm seeing on Facebook and Twitter as well, I mean, there's so many thumbs down on those. It's just, it's not a good metric. And people can, chalk it up to, oh, dumb Trump voters and stuff like that. I do not think that's it. I'm going to maintain, I think it was poetic. Josh posted on his Facebook the other day, yesterday, that, he said, Joe Biden meets, Jimmy Carter in Georgia. And Josh posted, 2 worst presidents in history meet for the first time. Fixed your headline for you. It's like, man, I do think that Joe Biden is a one-term president. I'm going to, at this point, guys, I'm going to say he's going to make it a full term. I'm going to say he's going to make it a full term, but he will be a one-term president. And he will be extremely unpopular. And we could go down that road about who's going to be the next Reagan or whatever. But what I want to talk about real quick before I kick it to Josh, because I'm going to talk for a minute. So Josh, just go ahead and go back to sleep. What I find most disconcerting about the administration so far in the first 100 days is the amount of money they're talking about spending. And just, I have this PDF in front of me, and what's the difference between a million, billion, and trillion? Okay. And I'll read it. 1,000 seconds, ticks of the clock, was 16 minutes, 40 seconds ago. So I paid, $7,000. I paid about 2 hours worth to ship my dogs overseas. Okay. So what's a million seconds? A million seconds is 11 days and about 14 hours. What's a billion seconds? A billion seconds is 31 and a half years. Okay. What's a trillion seconds? A trillion seconds is almost 32,000 years. That would be around 29,000 BC, which is 24,000 years before the earliest civilization began to take shape. Now let's bring this back to all of these policies and this infrastructure plan that Biden's talking about and all these things. We're talking about how much money? How much money are we talking about? $2.3 trillion. If a trillion is a second, that's, if we're talking about hours, years, all that stuff, that's 24,000 years ago. Plus the family's plan, which is 1.8 trillion. We're talking about the infrastructure plan. What does that mean? What is infrastructure? Okay. So I've got this thing. Let's go around the horn. Okay. Infrastructure in the modern world rotates around the electrical grid. That's all there is to it. Everything branches out from there. Everybody's talking about crumbling infrastructure. Okay, so the electrical grid is the core of infrastructure. What do we have around that core? Water, transportation, communications, financial services, emergency services, food and agriculture, government facilities, healthcare and public health, information technology, oil and gas production, critical manufacturing, commercial facilities, dams, defense industrial, chemical, nuclear reactors, and materials and waste. Okay, so can anyone tell me exactly which part of the infrastructure is crumbling? Which part of that infrastructure is actually crumbling? I know there's been some blackouts. Because of cold weather and things like that. But what's crumbling? If you want to invest in infrastructure, that's fine. But don't call it crumbling and tell me we got to spend 40,000 years worth of dollars fixing it. Who's going to pay for that? Josh was saying the other day, or not the other day, 2 days ago. I love Josh's Facebook posts. I'm really going to miss Facebook when I leave, and I'm going to leave it on Josh to plug our upcoming website within a month or two. But dude, I love Josh's Facebook posts because people are like, oh, part of the infrastructure and families plan is the first 2 years of community college are going to be free. And Josh is like, it's not free, morons. It's not free. So Josh, I'll ask you to do me a favor when you go off on this, on how it's going to be paid for and all this, is let's start to touch on, what the listener who will not be named likes to hear, is like, what would be our solution for it? And we talked about that a little bit today on Facebook Messenger. What would be the solution? What would be a better policy than what's being proposed right now? Go.
So, first off, that's just not free. When people say that, I don't understand why people don't understand that. I just can't wrap it around. Because when people talk about free college, they only think about the tuition piece. They're like, well, I just want to have to pay tuition. Okay. Well, who's going to pay the professors? Who is going to pay the janitor? Who is going to pay the rest of the facilities maintenance people? Who's going to pay all the administrative folks that work in there that have, they sit behind desks who aren't professors? Like, who's paying all that stuff? And if it's not going to be the federal government, okay, well, the federal government's not going to pay it. Okay, well, somebody's paying it. That money's coming from somewhere. Somebody is raising taxes. So when we're talking about, this free education and free this, I'm all about, getting people educated, whether it's in the, in the trades, whether it's through, a regular 4-year university where you go get your, your lesbian dance theory degree. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I would rather not pay for your lesbian dance theory degree, pay for you to become a licensed welder, a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber, and maybe you can go work on the infrastructure that Joe Biden keeps saying is crumbling. So, we were chatting earlier about this. I think it's, I think the idea is you take that and the government subsidizes it and says, hey, we will pay your way through a trade school. And most of your trade schools aren't that long. But when you graduate, guess what, buddy? You're on the hook for X number of years in the civil service. You're on the hook. You've got to go and work for the government on some project somewhere and pay that back in a sense, right? I'm 100% on board with that. And I even think, we even talked about if you're a corporation and you hire the to go work on these projects, hey, you're still getting paid. That corporation gets tax breaks from the government. I mean, I think that's a win-win for everybody. You'll see more companies. I think companies can get behind that. When you start talking tax breaks, that's when the private sector is like, hey, now you got my attention. And they they get back a little bit. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. And I would fully support the trades piece on this. I don't know that I would support this so much, paying for somebody to go get a 4-year degree in some bullshit major. When the zombies show up, nobody needs. Right? I don't know, Roger. You got any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the program, and I think California used to have something like that. If they still don't have it, as far as teachers, because I had a buddy, his wife went through it. I think I forget the amount of years, but basically she got her teaching degree from a state, public university, and in return, I think she had to do 5 years, in a community, low income community, as a teacher, and they still paid her, right? So it's like, hey, you're going to go teach, the underserved community. You do that 5 years, and then your student loan is, or however they do it, your degree's free. And I think my bigger problem with that, one, I love it because that's how you provide incentive to corporations to really give back to the community, which a lot of them do anyway. I know big corporations have been getting the black eye lately because, the top 5 biggest paid zero on taxes and this and that. Hey, so how many people does Amazon employ? It's kind of wondering, right? They pay any tax on those employees as far as the salaries? They might pay a little bit. They pay any unemployment tax, but anyway, I love the VOTEC thing, and this is kind of I just saw this a couple days ago. So Mesa Community College out here is offering quote unquote free college if you meet certain criteria and this and that. And I think it kind of boils up my whole problem with this thing. And it goes with several other, I guess you could probably say every major issue. I have no issue with folks at the local level, governments at the local level making these decisions, because voters are voting these people in. It's easier to make changes. Changes are faster, and you're making changes that immediately impact your community. Okay. To nationalize something like this is what I totally disagree with. It's kind of like the voting. It's what they're trying to do right now with voting, right? They're trying to nationalize voting procedures, not rights, voting procedures, as opposed to letting each locality, each state handle it the way they're supposed to handle it, handle it the way they choose to handle it. So like with Mesa Community College, eligibility requirements. City of Mesa, and again, 2-year college. City of Mesa residents who meet the following criteria are eligible for the Mesa College Promise, graduating 2021 from high school, earning a 2.0 or higher GPA, demonstrating financial need based on FAFSA. So they apply for it. They make below $45,000 as a family, and then you enroll full time at Mesa Community College. If you do that, you get 2 years of free community college. Because what they have done locally, and for those that aren't familiar with Mesa, Mesa's got some really nice areas, and Mesa's got some really poor areas. And what they have done at a local level is determined, hey, if we can get these folks that are underserved or underprivileged or whatever you want to call them, let's get them educated. And a lot of times, especially out here with the community colleges, a lot of those community colleges have the VOTEC programs. Right. So they go become plumbers, welders, electricians. Out here, it's aviation's huge. So now you take a guy or gal who probably would have never been able to go to college and even afford a VOTEC school and would have ended up at McDonald's. And now you're going to turn this person into somebody who makes, 80, 90, $100,000 a year that can actually give back to society. So I have no problems with local level government doing that. And it just goes back to our whole, when you look at the way the Constitution was written, it was power to the people, right? And when you look at what your vote can change and how fast it can change it, because they can get rid of this policy next cycle. It's gone, right? Hey, I didn't like these people. I vote them out, vote somebody else in, it changes. When you look at a national level, one, the change is not so fast. And then, maybe my state's doing it right, but you see it with the coronavirus, right? You see the states that primarily stayed open, And then you see the states that closed down. And with the $1.9 trillion COVID package, Florida and Arizona are paying for California and Michigan. Why is that? So that's my problem with that stuff is, there's a cookie cutter, solution that they're trying to apply to it. And it just doesn't work, across the country. What was interesting was what Luke said about about Joe Biden. And I want to ask you this, if you didn't have anything else to say, or just throw it in there or whatever. So Joe Biden, his cumulative, or not cumulative, but I guess the average approval rating is 53.9%. Okay. Now, Luke's shaking his head bullshit, and I totally agree with him, because The Hill came out today with their approval rating, and he's at 60, right? But get this. So when you look into the numbers, Rasmussen, which is pretty legit as far as polls go, have his approval rating at 47%, disapproval at 51. Okay, now I even think that's high for his approval rating, but it's probably somewhere close. Now, in order to get these averages, you got to throw in these other polls. Morning Consult has 60% to 33. 60 being approved, 33 being disapproved. Ipsos, 55 to 38. Harris X, who I've never even heard of, 60 to 40. YouGov, go figure, 51 to 39. So you probably have the most legitimate poll that is, probably an accurate reflection. But you know what? We'll go ahead and throw these other, left-wing polls in here that is going to be 55, 60%, and that's just going to skew everything, so it averages out at a 53. And kind of going back to what Luke was saying with the ratio on YouTube, I don't even know if there's a question here as opposed to a comment, but like every time we're on YouTube, social media, even last night with the or not last night, but the other night with the his joint address, or his address to joint Congress, like he had 1/3 the viewers that Trump did. If you get on, and I challenge our listeners out there, I mean, get on any one of his Facebook, videos, any of his YouTube videos, overwhelmingly it's negative. And I'm not talking about, hey, split 50-50. It is, and I'm throwing it out there, but it's like, dude, it's like 8 out of every 10 comments is extremely negative. People just are not happy with the way things are going. But then when you look at today's media, and then you look at the polling from all these, from these other 4 polls, he's at 60%. So where's that trade-off, Luke? Where's that discrepancy come from? I mean, it's like, is there anybody out there that actually feels like he has a 60% approval rating?
Well, okay, that's good, because this is why I say BS. I was like, oh, BS, no way. Is that, and then I started thinking about it. It's like, okay, things with COVID are getting better in the United States, and whether that was Trump's, thing, rolling out the, the vaccine, getting it done so quick, and so many people are being vaccinated, the rates are going down. Your average Joe and Jane six-pack are going to look to the president and be like, well, it looks like it's going well. The president must be doing a good job. I'm getting back to work. I must be, he must be doing a good job. Everything that happens, good or bad, is the president, right? So, I could see how those numbers for the uneducated populace are what they are right now. But, things keep going the way they are, and this approval rating is going to turn around. It really is. I mean, I know, a few companies, released their quarterly earnings, and it looked really good today for some companies. But if you look at the stock market, since Biden's been president in a supposed COVID recovery, it doesn't look that good. And I'm not saying that that's Biden's fault or anything like that. I'm just saying the stock market doesn't look that great compared to how it looked 18 months ago. And we're supposed to be going into a recovery. So I can see how those numbers are what they are right now, but they're not going to last. They are not going to last. And I don't know how to, how to square the numbers of dislikes on YouTube and all the social media platforms anytime Biden speaks. Because that's a little tricky, right? If somebody is looking at one of our YouTube videos, for instance, those of you who watch them, all 6 of you, we may say something in the video where it's like, well, we think that Joe Biden sucks. or we think Trump, or we think Trump is great. You're going to dislike the video based on the comment we made right then. That doesn't that means you dislike the entire video. That means you dislike the channel. That's the way the algorithm works on YouTube. So it's strange. It's a little bit weird. Do people not like Biden, or do they not like what he's saying? So it is strange. I don't know, but there are a lot of dislikes. Now, one thing I want to talk about real quick is, I don't want to be a complete hater, right? Back when I was in the military, doing work downrange, I used to apply the Joe Sixpack smell test on anytime I was spending money, or spending money on resources or whatever, fraud, waste, and abuse. It's like, well, do we really need this? And I used to apply the Joe Sixpack smell test. Excuse me, half a second. So the Joe Sixpack smell test is this. It's like Joe Sixpack sitting in his, living room. If he thought I needed to spend $1,000 on this widget, would Joe Sixpack like that or not? Is that good for Joe Sixpack or not? And if Joe Sixpack says, yeah, I think that Luke needs that to accomplish his mission, I'd be like, okay, I'm good. In the absence of, a command decision, I applied sometimes the Joe Sixpack smell test. And a lot of times it worked. I try to apply that in politics. Some of this stuff that Joe Biden's coming out with the infrastructure plan and things like that. Idealist versus realist, right? We live in a real world where we are taxed, and our tax dollars are going towards something the government is doing, whether we like it or not. So I look at the infrastructure plan, and there's a lot. 2.3 trillion plus 1.8 trillion. And there are some things in here I see, okay, if the government spent this money investing in the infrastructure, would it give a positive feedback to the economy? And some of these things actually do, right? I'm looking through this whole thing. I've got this thing pulled up. Most of the stuff I see in here doesn't do anything. Nutrition programs. Okay. Paid family and medical leave. That's 225 billion. Childcare, 225 billion. 2 years of free community college, 109 billion. For your first 2 years of your lesbian dance degree. I don't see how that contributes to the economy. Pell Grants, 85 billion. Free universal preschool, 200 billion. I don't know. Some of this stuff, small business, 31 billion. Okay. It depends on what that goes toward. Is it small businesses across the board, or is it minority small businesses? Well, we can get in that in a second. Here's one, $100 billion, electrical grid and clean energy. Okay. Electrical grid, I can get with $100 billion. Community investment, 20 billion. I can get with that. There's so much here. There's more here that I don't see. You can hear my dogs licking water in the background. So bad. There's more in this that I see doesn't have a actual return on investment. Eliminate lead pipes, 45 billion. Veterans hospitals, 18 billion. There's just a lot here that I don't see a return on investment. There are some things that I'm like, okay, I'm okay with the government investing in that. But I'd say 80% of it, I'm not okay with it. I'm really not. Josh, how much have you looked into it, if at all? And, what do you think about government investment in infrastructure?
So I haven't looked at the bills. I caught the highlights of them, the wave tops, and again, it's so convoluted that digging into it and really, really doing some due diligence on them is so right. And then we've now changed the definitions of things, so we're not operating off a common taxonomy anymore, because you have the president saying childcare is infrastructure. How in the hell is childcare infrastructure? How is it infrastructure? It's not. You may use infrastructure to go drop your kid off at childcare, but childcare itself is not infrastructure. I don't understand it. Any bill, regardless of what it's for, should have to be two things. And I'm going to go back to our episode where we said if we were, basically if we were in charge for a day, what would we do? The other thing I would do, I would push through a constitutional amendment that any bill presented before Congress would have to be a clean bill. There could only be one thing on that bill. That's it. The defense bill would strictly be defense. Whatever bill, that would be strictly, for whatever that subject is. You couldn't attach anything to it. And the other thing would be you would have any bill to it that has a dollar amount. If it does not cut $2 in spending for every $1 it wants to spend, it's dead on arrival. It will not pass. The spending is 100% out of control. It is out of control in this country, and we are using money to buy votes, and we're using the promise of money, to get our ways, and it is absolutely 100% out of control. As far as the infrastructure goes, okay, I have no issue with spending money to fix some bridges. I have no, using some money to, fix some of our roads. I can tell you right now, Manchester Road on Fort Bragg, please God, get some of that damn infrastructure bill money, because that road's a hot ass mess. But when you're rattling off infrastructure, and it's not crumbling. I see people working on bridges all the time. I see people working on the electrical grid all the time. I see people, we're constantly working on and upgrading and updating nuclear power plants, because those things were all built back in the 50s and the 60s, most of them. Those things are constantly being upgraded. I drive past one every time I drive from, my neighborhood to Raleigh. I drive past a nuclear power plant, and there's, you can always see construction going on out there.
Okay.
So,
okay. Let me ask you this, though. Just throw this in there. The nuclear power plant, I get. Okay. But the highway that's all messed up, all that stuff. How is that federal? The nuclear plants, I get that. That's federal infrastructure. The interstates, that's federal infrastructure. But if your state highway is all messed up, that's not a federal problem as far as I'm concerned. Nuclear plants, yes, I get it. But crumbling infrastructure, I guess it depends on the state you're in, right? I don't know.
I guess. And so when I say fixing roads and stuff, yeah, I use, Fort Bragg roads. That's federal, right? Because that's on a military installation. And so, yeah, if it's not an interstate, that's a state problem, man. That's a state, all the way down to the county problem. You gotta get that under control. But at the federal level, they shouldn't be. Obviously, they shouldn't be funding and maintaining non-federal things. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. I think it's just another excuse to spend money so they can turn around and say, look what we did. They're even talking about another round of stimulus. I'm like, why? At some point, somebody needs to take the checkbook away from them. It's not going to happen because, the people in Congress, they're old. They don't care. They're going to be dead before the bill comes due. So it's a shit show. I am becoming more and more, my little L for libertarians becoming day by day, because I mean, how many fiscal conservatives are there left? Rand Paul, and who else? Who name another fiscal conservative?
There isn't one.
No, there's not one.
Well, until the big L libertarians put up a viable candidate, which they have not, and they won't next time. Joe Jorgensen and what is Aleppo? Come on, man.
Gary Johnson.
Gary. What is Aleppo Johnson? It's
so
like
here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that needs to happen, and maybe this will wake Americans up. Guess what? Taxes taken out of your paycheck. You will write a check every month. At the end of the month, you will write a check to the government to pay your taxes. Let's see how quick and see how much support shit like this gets put behind it when you're actually physically writing that check every month. Not just, well, it's not, it's not my paycheck, so I don't ever see that money, so it doesn't hurt. It doesn't sting that bad. No. Write that check. There will be a negative physical chemical response in your body, and you'll be like, this is bullshit. And I'm fed up with it, and I'm not putting up with it anymore. So that was all.
That'll never happen, though. No, I agree with you. That'll never happen because nobody will have the money. Oh, you need a check? Yeah, let me go ahead and write that one for you right there.
Like floating a check at the PX when you're private. You were like, I can buy whatever I want on Friday because this puppy till Monday.
Yeah. Float check day. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's. I don't even argue against what's in this stuff. That's fine. If you want to give money to in-home care, $400 billion, by the way, which I don't know how that falls into infrastructure, but or airports or whatever. I don't care. That's fine. Vote on that issue. And I think that's what Josh is saying. It's like, hey, look, they do these omnibus packages where they roll everything into one. And these things, I mean, some of these I don't know how in-home care falls under the infrastructure spending bill. It's $400 billion out. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need that and you don't need, it says on the chart here, care for people with disabilities and older adults. I'm not saying we don't need that. Make that a separate issue and vote on it. But neither side will do that because they know that they won't get what they need passed so they can send money back to their constituents, back to their states, because that's what happens. Going back to Luke's statement on the states and the roads and this and that. That's the deal. That's the deal that's been made. Is the states and the blue states and the red states do it as well. In this case, it was the blue states. Hey, we're going to follow your federal guidance with coronavirus and what the CDC puts out and this and that, because in return, we're going to get some federal money for us. And so when you have whatever the money was for roads or whatever, roads and bridges, $115 billion. Okay, well, you know what? I think it's like 50 billion of that or 35 billion of that goes to the states. And guess who's going to get the most of that money? California, New York, Michigan, Washington State, right? It's going to be states that go back to the administration because that's the deal they cut. They said, hey, I'm going to follow suit and do what you tell me to do because when this big bill gets passed, I want some of that money. And so that's my problem with this is break it apart. I mean, they even break it apart, and it's actually a pretty good chart from the New York Times that Luke sent. They break it down to buildings and utilities, transportation, in-home care, jobs and innovation. It's crazy because they talk about, well, everybody, high-speed broadband, da-da-da. Okay, that's great. That's only $100 billion. There's more money going to some of this stuff. Like, I have no idea what some of this stuff is. What's other for $35 billion? I mean, I get it, right? I mean, I understand that. There's some certain things that don't fall into categories. Like, hey, it's just $35 billion. And I wish there was another term for it, because we use the term taxes all the time. And that's probably like my biggest thing is jobs in the economy and taxes. Because people, and I've said it a million times, but people fail to realize, or I guess they do realize, they just, they don't want to come to terms with it. But taxes means my money. That's what taxes are, right? They shouldn't call them taxes. That's our money. And so, yeah, when you're taking our money to spend on this stuff, it's like Josh said, nothing's free. Okay, it's not free because I'm paying for it. You're paying for it. We are all paying for it. And it goes back to my push, I would like to see, and I think you are seeing it, more things return to the local level so that locally here, we can determine what we're going to spend our money on because it's much easier to vote out a town council than it is a president or whatever. The other thing with this is even the left, and I do think I agree with Luke on this, where you look at his overall approval rating and it's going to go down because you're starting to get more and more pushback from the left. I mean, did you hear that Hillary Clinton and there's another one on a prominent left talking about the Afghan pullout, saying, no, you don't need to do that. And I forget who it was on Fox News. They're like, hey, so when Hillary Clinton and the GOP agrees on a foreign policy issue, you might want to listen to that. Now I'm not saying you're right or wrong on the Afghan thing and maybe you should be there or not or whatever, separate issue. But it kills me when you look at the overall job bill they say it's going to create 19 million jobs, right? You know what the CBO says that we're going to create without this job bill? 16 million. So they're like, wait a minute here. So let me get this right. So we're going to spend $2 trillion to create 3 million more jobs. And you don't hear that. All you hear is, we're going to create 19 million jobs. We're going to create 19 million jobs. Okay, that's great. Well, what we're going to create without it? Well, we were going to create 16 million. And going back to the real issue is, okay, well, who's creating those 16 million jobs versus who's creating the 19 million jobs? I'm not sure I want the federal government, because that's what's going on now. I read an article today about, quantitative easing, how the Fed's just going to keep doing it, right? They're just going to keep doing it, keep buying bonds. And so now you're seeing the difference between a Trump economy and a Barry economy, or now a Biden economy, because those are one and the same. And so you're looking at an economy that was propped up by small businesses versus an economy that's being propped up by the government. And when you look at GDP and everybody's talking about, hey, look at all this, the GDP's historic highs and this and that. Well, because we went through a crash where half the country, if not more, was shut down. So guess what? When you have that big drop, you're going to have a historical rebound, which you should under any president, right? That's just the way it's going to happen. But you're truly looking at the difference between a small business, private citizen built economy or economic recovery versus government funding. And, Josh has been saying it for a while, and I guess when you say it long enough, it happens. But it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be a huge crash here, and the government's back into buying, mortgage securities again. Oh, by the way, that goes back to the Glass-Steagall Act. You can thank Bill Clinton for that one there, where they allowed the bank to get involved in securitizations, buying, blocks of, 100,000. Because I tell you what, I don't know how it is out there where you guys are. Well, Luke's a little different where he's at, but where Josh is. But home values here have gone through the roof. And you're getting to the point where people can't afford to pay for them anymore, right? So what happens to these blocks of, securitizations is, okay, well, as an investor, you assume that 5% of these are going to be bad, and we'll just write these 5% off. What happens when 50% are bad? What happens when 60% are bad? What happens when 75% of those are bad? Right? And oh, by the way, you can't evict anybody either. Right. So again, I'm not saying that there aren't some positives here. It's like Luke said, there's always positives there, but I think you have to vote on those individually, but it will never happen individually, because then the senators and congresspersons have no way to filter money back to their own districts.
Whew. I have a lot of problems with what's going on right now, mainly, and talk about Josh's little L versus big L. It's, you've got a choice right now. You're either a Republican or a Democrat if you're being a realist. You're going to throw your vote away on Joe Jorgensen. I don't care what anybody says listening to this. If you voted for Joe Jorgensen, or what is Aleppo, he's so inconsequential to me. I forget his name. Gary Johnson. If you voted for them, you threw your vote away, just like you did for Ross Perot. So don't come at me with your BS about, I voted my principles. No, you didn't. You threw your vote away. That's exactly what you did. And I will be the first one to tell you that's a consequence of our system. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You did throw your vote away. That sucks that the system exists the way it does, but you did. You threw your vote away. Okay, I went a little bit off.
Well, no, you didn't just throw your vote away. In this case here, and it changes depending on who's running. In this case here, you voted for Biden. If you voted that third party, you voted for Biden.
And Perot, you voted for Clinton. Right. Perot, you voted for Clinton. That's just all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And people can say they voted their conscience. And hey, bro, why don't you just vote your conscience? Hey, man, why don't you grow up and live in the real world and stop being a little whatever? Okay. All right. You gonna vote for Joe Jorgensen? You go vote for Joe Jorgensen and, go with God. Man, and I just lost my entire train of thought right there. Okay, Roger, remind me again where I was supposed to go with that.
Well, we were
on a libertarian rant. What the
No,
hell?
it's actually, I don't know where you were going to go with it. I actually started going down with this road, and then I pulled back. The Afghan withdrawal.
Oh,
okay. What's y'all's thoughts on that?
I had a whole different train of thought, and I should have written it down. I got a pen and paper and my big chief tablet right here, and I didn't write down where I was going to go. I got on that libertarian train and just, wow. Okay, so the Afghan withdrawal. The three of us have some very, personal connections with Afghanistan, being in Afghanistan, witnessing the, September 11th attacks and things like that. But the three of us also, along with the rest of the American public, have had 20 years to kind of digest this, and 20 years to kind of put it into perspective, and 20 years of seeing the bureaucracy in Washington, the DOD, completely screw this thing up 6 ways from Sunday. The way I see it personally, and Roger and Josh may differ with me on this, is when I was there somewhat early on, 2003, 2004, 5, that's when we should have pulled out, because things were going relatively well back then when I was there, based on what I saw. Completely pulled out and left nothing there. I'm not saying that, but just we should have started to back off way back then. That was a long time ago. 2004, 5 was a long time ago. Things wouldn't be any different if we pulled out in 2005 than if we pull out in 2021, which we're not going to, by the way. Spoiler alert, we're not going to. That place, if you study history, it's not a winnable thing. I don't understand why we're there from a geopolitical stand. I understand why we went into Iraq, why we had Afghanistan on the other end to try to squeeze Iran. That didn't work out for us because we wussied out. We need to pull out. It's long past the time to pull out. We need to build a memorial to all the troops that have served there and died there and were wounded there. It's time to go. And here's what's going to happen. Is the Taliban going to come in and cause problems? Of course they are. Of course they are. And if it's not the Taliban, 1,000 years from now, it'll be some other group that's there causing problems and killing their own people. It's just, I'm sorry, man. I feel a deep connection to Afghanistan, but there's nothing we can do there. I don't know. Maybe Josh has got, maybe he can elucidate some more cogent points, but that's how I feel about it. I mean,
No, I'm with you. We all lived through 9/11. We all saw ODA 595. Horse soldiers go into Afghanistan, link up with the Northern Alliance agency folks, and take the fight to the Taliban, and we toppled the Taliban in less than 90 days, right around the 90-day mark, maybe. And we almost had Bin Laden at Tora Bora during Operation Anaconda. The command and control got screwed up because they allowed the conventional military to come in and put their hands in the cookie jar. And if there was ever a tailor-made unconventional warfare fight, it was Afghanistan. We literally have forces that are chartered. Their specific charter is to do that very thing. And yet we allowed the conventional military to go in and screw it all up. We should have left Afghanistan after Tora Bora. It'd be like, all right, we've killed a lot of people so far already, right? I mean, we've killed a lot of people already. Should have left. And then let's say we obviously stayed after that. We had another opportunity to leave in May of what was to kill Bin Laden. At that point, we have truly achieved what we came to do, which was dismantle Al Qaeda and deny them the operational space and time to plan another 9/11 style attack. Keep them from where they could not reach out and touch the homeland. Why we didn't leave? Well, I know why we didn't leave, because it's all politics at that point. But anybody who is, cares enough, pick up the history of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is truly the graveyard of empires. Genghis Khan couldn't conquer it. conquer it. The Soviets couldn't do it, and the Soviets even told us when we were going in. The Soviets were like, "Do not do this. Like you guys are out of your gourd if you stay there, too long." And what did we do? We took what was supposed to be the Soviets' Vietnam, that we tried to make it their Vietnam. 20 years later, we're still there, and I'm on board with you, Luke. We ain't leaving. We ain't leaving on September 11th of this year. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be, the last American walking across Friendship Bridge, on that date. It's not going to happen. We're going to find a reason to stay. The Taliban are pissed because we've already violated the accords that they signed in Qatar. Qatar, whatever you want to call it. I don't give a fuck. We've already violated those. The they're going to ramp up attacks. Summer's coming, man. Summer's coming. Everybody knows Haji likes to get his jihad on when it gets hot. He got shit else to do. He's hot. He's angry. And spike in attacks. We just can't leave our Taliban partner. Yeah, our Taliban partner. Our Afghan partners. Half of them are Taliban anyway. And it's just going to be what it is,
Well,
and you're right.
Blinken already said it kind of went under the radar there, but I did see where Blinken said pulling out of Afghanistan is not a good idea. And everyone in the audience knows, if you've been listening to the past few episodes, you know how I think. Blinken runs foreign policy. And when I read that he put out that statement about, I don't think it's a good idea to leave Afghanistan right now, I was like, that's it. We're not leaving. Because that dude runs foreign policy. So whatever. Yep. I don't know. Roger thinks we should stay in Afghanistan forever.
No, I think my problem with Afghanistan, and Josh hit on the head, is the objectives. What are the objectives now? And the objectives keep changing. And so I have no problem with long-term force projection. We've been doing this, through Europe for several years. And it's, understand there are strategic reasons why you stay in certain places or what have you. But the objectives in Afghanistan just continued to change. And Josh, you said, a pretty good point, talking about it became politics. And I'll steal this from, I think it was Fox News today, when they said that, over essentially the last 2 decades, foreign policy and military operations has revolved around the election cycle. And that's part of the problem there. You're not doing what's actually in the interest of national security. And this has nothing to do whether you believe that we withdraw or stay there or whatever. I mean, I think you can make, you make arguments for both. You look at what happened in Iraq when we withdrew, and then, you're back in there. So how do you leave Afghanistan? Should we be there? Probably not. How do you leave it so you don't come back? At this point, there might not be a right answer, because you'd already passed 2 major milestones where you probably could have withdrawn and set the stage that you don't come back. So I don't know exactly how that looks, but the problem for me is the objectives just keep changing. I don't know, and I know even myself. I did several tours, so when you get down to like my last tour, and I remember having conversations over there with some of our interpreters and some other folks. There was definitely a difference between my first tour and my last tour, where the first tour, I knew why I was here. I knew what we were doing. Got to the last tour, the operating environment had completely changed, and it had changed so much that I'm like, I actually don't even know what we're doing here. Right? And I know what my job is here, but, collectively what we're doing, it's like, man, I don't even know what the objective is anymore. And I'm not sure that any of them know what the objectives are anymore, as far as your senior leaders. I mean, we've had the ability to pull out. We've had the ability to withdraw. I am, like you guys were saying with, you had me at Alexander the Great, man. I mean, when you get there and you get to, what was it, Team B with the Soviet Union, it's like, hey, you've got to be very, very careful with what you set your objectives, here in Afghanistan, and they need to be short-term, hit them and get out.
Dude, and Alexander the Great, he even went above and beyond and married an Afghan woman to try to get shit straight there.
We went
That's something I'm not willing to do. That's something Joe Biden's not willing to do.
And I think you guys saw it, right? I mean, when you got to Afghanistan, I mean, here was my thing that I noticed a difference between Afghanistan and everywhere else in the world that I'd been. There is nothing in Afghanistan. There is, you talk about who needs infrastructure spending. They need fucking, infrastructure, because there is nothing there. And, when you look at Haiti, when you look at Korea, when you look at throughout Europe and all, and all these other places, it's like, man, there is like nothing here.
stopped in Afghanistan in the 10th century and it never restarted.
No, I mean, I don't think people realize that.
It literally, Afghanistan is like walking through the Bible. It truly is. It is like walking through the Bible. And people don't understand that. And the people who don't understand that mostly is the United States. Come in, it's like, oh man, we're going to build schools. We're going to dig wells. We're going to make your life better. We're going to have a strong central government in Kabul. That's why it's like, dude, there are people in Afghanistan who have never left the valley they were born and grew up in. They don't give a shit about a strong central government in Kabul. You know what? Afghanistan, it's a Kalashnikov. That's the government in Afghanistan. That settles the problem. That settles people's problems. And we did not understand that, but yet we continue to try and force that square peg through the round hole because we just didn't understand. We didn't understand environment to begin with. We thought that we were going to be able to go in there, hand out some rice and flip-flops and kill our way out. There's always going to be the Taliban. There's always going to be Haqqani. There's always going to be, there's ISIS-K in Afghanistan. There's always going to be named terrorist organization that's over there running shit, blowing shit up and killing people. It is always going to be that way. There is a way to manage that. What you do is you get everybody out of there and then you leave in the region, not in Afghanistan. And we have in the region, you leave small packages. More than likely, they're going to be some, pick your flavor of special operations. And they are going to be the ones that continue and to deny the operational time and space for, again, insert your favorite terror group to, project and be able to target, our allies in Europe or the homeland. Other than that, guess what, Afghanistan? Bomb you. We can't even bomb you to the Stone Age. You're not you stopping it.
It would be an upgrade.
Yeah.
They'd be like, hey, thanks for that infrastructure package.
Yeah, exactly.
So look,
and so
it's
stupid.
Here's what the average American thinks. And this is how it will be sold to the average American. It's been sold this way for the past 20 years, if you've been paying attention. It's like if we pull out of Afghanistan, they can plan another 9/11. Let me tell you what I think about 9/11 and how that came about, and we'll bring it all the way back to Afghanistan. 9/11 was a totality of unforeseen circumstances. They got us. That was the ultimate unconventional warfare on behalf, that Al-Qaeda executed. We were not expecting that at all. That, hijacking planes back then, I'm going to let you behind the curtain a little bit on this. Back then, the TTP was, if you're a military person or whatever, or what we were taught is, if you're on a hijacked airplane, you do nothing. Because that was not the TTP. They're going to hijack the airplane. They're going to make a demand to release, Palestinians or whoever from wherever. And eventually, most of the people on the plane are going to be let go. They knew where the weaknesses were. They exploited them. They ran I'm not even going to say they ran the operation from Afghanistan. I'm going to say that there were elements in Afghanistan that were involved in the planning, but they were all over the place. So what I'm saying is, if we pull out of Afghanistan, now we know it's possible for people to hijack airplanes and fly them into buildings. That's why we have the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security now. There ain't going to be no 9/11 style attack planned from Afghanistan if we pull out for the next 100 years. It just ain't going to happen. Because you know what? Now we know. It's like Josh said, you leave an element, it's going to be the Rangers. You leave an element on maybe even in Kabul, all you need is about a company to take care of problems, take out the trash. But look, man, yeah, I just don't buy the argument of, if we pull out of Afghanistan, there's going to be another 9/11 planned from there. The next 9/11 or whatever it's going to be is being planned in Mozambique, Chad, Niger, places that you don't even know how to find on a map, just like you did in Afghanistan on September 11th, 2000. They're being planned from some other place that's an operating environment that we're not in and we can't control. So whatever. Let's get out of Afghanistan, man. F it, Roger.
Good Lord. Good Lord. So we got time to go around the horn one last time here. We didn't even get to the rest of Biden's 100-day thing or whatever. Some of my last thing here, I'm gonna run down real quick. Again, back to the NPR thing. Environment. So positive, or I say positive. Green check mark. Organized the Climate World Summit. He did make U.S. national leader in climate change. It's complicated, which means he didn't. Racial equity, not equality. Equity. Extend Voting Rights Act. Nope. Institute National Police Oversight Mission. Nope. Push Congress to pass Safe Justice Act. Nope. Immigration. We already know what road we're going down here. Introduce legislation for pathway for citizenship. Done. But through executive order, actually not legislation because it won't pass. Make DACA permanent. Nope. Stop family separation at U.S.-Mexican border. They say it's complicated. We're actually continuing to separate families at the Mexican border. Which wasn't right under Trump either, or whatever. I mean, if you believe that or not, really nothing's changed there. Established task force to reunite children and parents separated at the border. Done, but that's kind of weird because it's like, well, you're separating them, and then you're going to create a task force to bring together or reunite the family that you separated at the border. Makes sense. And Trump executive order banning travelers from some Muslim majority countries. That's done, but he enacted an executive order banning travelers from some Hindu majority country. So I guess we just changed the religion out there. Stop migrant protection protocols and asylum metering policy. Nope. Defund continued border wall construction. So it's funny because it says it's complicated because he did stop it. And then they turn around and say, yeah, we might actually have to finish his border wall after all. Increased government supervision over U.S. border and immigration agencies. Yes. So what does that mean? Increased government supervision. He increased government supervision by sending Kamala down there. Oh, that's right. She didn't go down there. He just made her the border czar. And now she's like the racial equity czar or something like that, right? Didn't he say that during his little thing or whatever? So I guess she's done with the other piece with the border so she can move on to other tasks. Two more, and then I'll kick it to you, Josh. Foreign policy, pledge to pick up the pieces of Donald Trump's broken foreign policy. Not done. International summit. I think the international summit actually was just done the other day because I only caught a snippet of it, but they had all the world leaders, and Biden was the only one there on a Zoom call wearing his mask as he's sitting in the room by himself. So that's the majority of it. I've got like 10 or 15 others here we don't have time to go for, but that's my closeout, Josh. What say you?
I got a question. So, like the Hindu hate thing that the administration is perpetrating now.
I was just going to say that it is because when Kamala became vice president, she became the first Asian vice president, right? I mean, that's what they said. So it's Asian hate, man. Protect me. See, you guys.
I was going to say, do you feel safe right now?
I am on to you.
Danger. Not me, man. I'm not the administration that's banning travel from your continent. There's Asian hate right there. Dude.
Continent, so
subcontinent, whatever. It's Asia. It's Asia. I'm just saying. If if the Department of Defense was to fight a war in India, you would get the Southeast Asia Campaign Medal. I'm just saying.
Ooh. Say that, man.
I'm just throwing it out there.
What else?
Yeah, so that was all I was gonna say.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay. That's all Josh has got. So so folks, we're if you follow the Loopster on Facebook, I'm out. My time is short for Facebook. I'm not going to give them my money much longer. But we're getting pretty excited at the Cup over here. We're talking about putting together a website where we're going to have some good stuff going on there. And we're hoping that, we can make it somewhat of a news aggregator. So you'll kind of have an idea of what kind of news sources we look at. We might put our own thoughts on there. We're going to have our podcast on there, and we're hoping you'll put it in your favorites bar on Google and visit that every day, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk more about it as the time comes. this episode, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go over. I don't even know what the cover art's going to be. I have no idea. I'll give some, I'll give some shout outs real quick. I want to give a shout out to Brent. Brent, he don't feel the love all the time. Brent in Lubbock, Texas, bro. I'm moving back there. I'll see you soon enough. Graham and John, thanks for listening. And Graham is even looking up the history of the Culper group there, Josh. So you had, the name that you kind of came up with there. She's doing some research and she's feeling her patriotic roots. Jed, thanks for listening. Adriana and Matea. I really didn't know that you two listened, two of our Slovenian fans, and we appreciate y'all listening. We hope you keep listening, keep posting your pictures on the Facebook page, and appreciate you listening. And Carlton Zeus, as always, thanks for that intro music, brother. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. For those of you who are going to hang around and see our freemium content, that'll start shortly. For those of you in the podcast, keep your canteen cups tightly secured.
We got to do the shout outs and like the news with the website. We should have done that at the beginning. Nobody makes it to the end.
Right. Nobody's gonna hear that.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know.
Or you'll know who your actual loyal listeners are. When they
How
say, hey man, thanks for the shout out.
How do you guys think this one went? I don't know, man.
It was a little slower than the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Hey man.
Yeah.
They can't all be winners.
They can't all be winners. That's what.
It's true.
It's all about content. It's all about content. We didn't even get into the whole John Kerry thing, man.
Oh God.
Oh, dude.
So here's the question. He's an enemy, right? The guy who said that is an enemy.
And it was leaked audio.
Yeah.
Could it be?
Yeah.
Could it be a disinformation campaign? Sure. It could be.
It could be. Yes.
So, but is it worth addressing? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. It's worth a special counsel. That's what.
Well, because I mean, if it was truly leaked audio, which from everything that I've heard, it is okay.
Yeah.
And it was. If it was truly leaked audio, there'd be no reason for him to say what he said.
Well,
right? Because you're assuming that it's not going to make it out of.
Right.
And I believe that it's truly leaked audio because he says things about Soleimani. He says things about, the shot. He says a lot of things, man. It's like
he was motherfucking Soleimani, and that was one thing you did not do publicly at all.
Yes.
But you guys think about this, and I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, man, we should bring this up on the podcast. Think about it. How easy of a CI investigation would this be?
Oh yeah.
To determine whether John Kerry actually said that or not, it would be a fucking...
In 30 days, he would not have a clearance because you know what? There would be enough doubt there that you would say, you know what? We err on the side of not issuing him a clearance.
Dude, you give it, and so could it be disinformation? 100%. But given John Kerry's previous actions, especially with administration, when he was over meeting with Iranian leaders, trying to undermine the Trump administration, it's not far-fetched at all to be like, he kind of threw the Israelis under the bus. I'd be curious to know what the Israelis are saying internally. Because
they already know. I guarantee they already know.
Oh, the Israelis
because
know.
They knew what ops were going on in Syria. That's what I'm saying. It's like all you have to do is marry up what ops were going on in Syria and whatever was said in the audio, and there you go. There's your smoking gun.
I don't think they carry things over.
Simple.
I think you tie in what you guys tie in the Israel thing. Well, no, I mean, from our side, the GOP is obviously going to push it, but I think when you look at it from the Israeli side, man, I don't know that they carry things over.
Dude,
just saying,
it's like that's bad, man. Like that is bad.
Man, that's our climate czar, man. What are you talking about?
Don't
badmouth our climate czar.
They're not going to do anything to him.
I don't understand your comments, Josh. Your last two comments you made. What does that mean?
Oh yeah, the reuniting the family.
Talking about breaking up the families at the border, and then reuniting.
They haven't reunited one family.
But that's how you
And-
do it. You break them up so you can create a task force to reunite them. You
Right,
say,
to
well, we
reunite
created a
them,
task force.
because that costs money, and we can spend more money to reunite
right.
the folks that we just separated. Yeah,
Right. Right.
absolutely fucking insane.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty stoked with the website. So hopefully we get this thing up and running. So for our YouTube viewers out there, we appreciate you watching. Hopefully you get to see the website or hear about the website sooner than later. But the reality is it'll probably take us several weeks to get this thing up and running, at least the way that we want it to anyway. And we're always up for some free help for any of our listeners out there, especially in India, right? And we got a lot of Indians out there.
9%.
Right? Yeah, I mean they build websites, so we're all into free help for this thing. But
Hey, and
anyway,
shout out to them going through COVID right now, because apparently it's pretty tough there. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
Stay strong.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
absolutely. So for all you viewers out there, thanks for watching. Thanks to Carlton Zeus. Make sure you go check his music out, even though you can't hear it on the YouTube channel. Got to find a way to plug that in there or whatever. But keep your canteen cups tightly secured.